All right, guys, it's Andy. She blinded me with refractors. Got a couple of special guests here tonight to kind of go through some of this lawsuit that's going on with PSA, PWCC, Probstein. So we got Mike, baseball collector. We got Bart, the PSA guy, and we got Eric, those back pages.
Hey now.
So how's it going tonight, fellas?
Good.
Good.
What's up, guys?
Right. So everybody has probably seen that.
Eric, are you doing something, Eric?
No, that's not me. I've got you muted.
It's like somebody's opening a pack of peanuts.
I hear that.
Yeah, I hear it too.
So, as everybody probably knows by now, there's a class action lawsuit against PSA, PWCC, Probstein. So, we're just going to kind of discuss a little bit tonight, like how does that affect us as collectors, and how's that going to affect people in the hobby going forward? So, all three gentlemen that I have on here tonight have quite a few slab cards. So let's start with you, Mike. How many PSA cards would you say you have in your collection?
Well, between just regular old slabs and autograph, PSA DNA stuff, I think I'm at around 2,500 or so.
It's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
How about you, Bart?
Registered, I got about 5,100.
Okay, that's a fair amount. Eric, how about you, man?
I'm right about 3,000, somewhere around there.
3,000? Okay. So it's pretty safe to say that all three of you guys have a pretty big interest in what's going on, correct?
Yeah. What about you? How many do you have?
Yeah.
You know me. I don't have too many. I don't know. I would guess 75 to 100, maybe.
It's like we have a gremlin in here or something.
I'm a relatively.
You want me to leave and come back and see if it's me? Because I don't think it's me, but let me do that.
I have a relatively small PSA collection, so out of all these cards that you guys have you discovered any in your collection that you think or somebody else has maybe thought was compromised in any way? No. Mike, you first.
Not that I know of, but I've always said all along, when you're in that world, it's not impossible to think that that's true. It's maybe. The answer is maybe. Not that I know of. I've not been contacted by PSA to tell me that, or anybody to tell me that I have some cards that are questionable.
Okay. How about you, Bart?
The only one that I think maybe is a 48 leaf that I have, football side, just because that's one of the most common ones on the football. I bought it in 2013, so I don't know how far back they went to kind of investigate there. But that's part of the tough parts of the trimming and everything, is that some of the cards, they came different sizes from the manufacturer. So they can trim the card and it still be just the same size as half the other cards that are slabbed. So nobody contacted me for it. So thankfully, I'm going to assume that it's good to go.
Yeah, I think those 48 Leafs and 49 Bowmans and some of those were some of the ones that were pretty prevalent, you might say. So what about you, Eric? Anything in your collection that anyone has let you know might be compromised?
No, I haven't heard from anyone in that regard. But what I do want to say is, when you have as many slabs as are represented in the room right now, it's without a doubt some of them. It's just simple math. I mean, it's a consequence of everything that's going on. So if someone were to say, hey, like this such and such, we believe that to be altered, would it shock me? No, it wouldn't shock me. Would it be happy? No, I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would be happy to get that news. So let's let's get into this a little bit. Like, let's tell everyone, and we'll start with you, Mike. Tell everyone why it is that you prefer to collect slabbed cards over raw cards.
Well, I guess Bart decided to leave. He'll come back. I think it was his gremlin.
I think it was something. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I muted his mic for a second and it stopped. So I think it was something going on.
He's on the phone instead of the computer, I think is what it is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he'll pop back in here in a second, hopefully.
For sure. You know, I started with slabs mainly when I started really getting heavy into vintage because I was worried about the authenticity of the card. I wouldn't know that I cared so much about the assigned grade, although we all care. I mean, I wanted the card though, and I really wanted at least another opinion on whether or not it was legit, because I just wasn't that big of an expert on being able to tell if it was a reprint or a really good fake or whatever. And so when I started investing, when you're putting money into something, you don't want to just get completely obviously duped. And it's not that they're perfect or anything by any means, but at least it was not just my opinion on whether or not the card was authentic. And then the whole grade thing is a totally different thing. But for me, the beginning was, I want a real card and not a fake or a reprint or whatever. I didn't want to find out sometime later, oh, you bought a fake and spend some crazy amount of money on it. So that's why I like them. And now that I'm doing it, good grief, I think cards, I was never a grading guy. I thought it was just a waste. I thought it was silly. For a long, long time, I was a raw card guy. But man, they look sweet in slabs, don't they? Cards look really good.
Yeah.
In their little plastic containers. So that's
How about you, Eric?
Well, I mean, like everyone else here, I've been doing this a long time. And then, like most everyone else here, I took a break. First retirement, I like to call it. And then when I came back, quote unquote, full time in 2005, I was, picking up cards and they come in the mail. And, the seller would say, yeah, this card's mint. It's gem mint. It's perfect. You get it in the mail. There's some damage here, damage there, surface damage, all the types of things that you stereotypical damage. So, a lot of people would say to me, Eric, what's the big deal? You just return it, buy another one. Well, that's fine. But, at what point you'd rather have the card than the funds, than the money? Because sometimes it's easier to get more money than it is to get cards you're buying. So another thing is that the seller on eBay, it's their job to make the most money. So they really, they want to sell their item for the most money possible. That's logic. Us as buyers want to buy, for the cheapest price possible, the best deal possible, however you want to phrase it. So I see third-party grading as like a mediator, a go-between. Like, if you're saying your card is mint and then the third party is saying, the card is mint, then obviously I'm going to feel comfortable that I know what I'm getting in the mail when it comes in. Now, all the bad actors and everything else we'll get to, but that's the quick synopsis of you pretty much know what you're bidding on when you're bidding on something, that is a neutral opinion.
Okay. How about you, Bart?
Well, I got started in it, I guess, because I was traveling a lot overseas and things like that, and I still wanted to buy this stuff. And so it just seemed as a way of, kind of like Mike said, at least a sort of verification, right? If not a full one, that, I was getting something. I gravitated towards PSA eventually just because we all have a little bit of OCD in us, right? So I was all over the place with BBGs and BGSs and SGCs and GAI back then. And eventually PSA kind of stepped forward as one that seemed to be okay. It's a little bit more grounded into it or whatever. Um, you know, they attracted me through the registry, I think, is one of the big ones too. That one, to me, that's a bit of a game changer, to be honest, because I was such a mess starting out. I took a big break, I guess, right through college, and then first couple of years getting my feet under me, working and stuff like that. Again, all over the place. And finally, I was like, all right, well, let's put some money into this. I had absolutely no idea. And the registry and the slabs, and there was some trust that I could build in something else, because it was you don't necessarily know how smart the person is at your LCS or something if you're lucky enough to have an LCS. So this corporation, that so they put their stamp of approval on it, type of thing, is gravitated towards me. And with the registry and everything, all right, well, somebody put some thought in. This is a set. These are cards lined up in a row, type of thing. I kind of bought in that way. And now, I see all raw cards almost as something with potential, as opposed to the entity itself, right? It's almost doesn't go get the full aspect until it's slabbed.
Yeah, and I kind of this, like, my answer is kind of a lot of what you guys have said. Back in the early days of eBay, I can remember buying raw cards, and seller describes it as near mint or mint. You get it in and it's just mangled. And, after returning so many cards like that, that's really kind of what got me into buying graded cards in the beginning. And obviously we all realize they're not perfect. Like, there's definitely some mistakes.
Humans are involved.
There's some mistakes and maybe other stuff going on, but it does at least kind of, you're not going to get like a PS. Like, let's just say you're buying like a 7 or an 8, you're not going to get one that's just looks completely mangled, like some of the things that I was getting in those early days. So I can at least say that for them. So all of this stuff that has gone on, as far as trimming, all the shilling, stuff like that, all the stuff that they're talking about in this lawsuit, how has this stuff changed the way that you guys collect? Let's start with you this time, Bart.
It hasn't much. At this point, we've been collecting long enough that you have your own discerning eye for the items that you're going after and stuff. But when you talk about, the trust and confidence that you want to place in the companies, I guess I think a little bit harder, but, thankfully the ones that most of the time in baseball that are so suspect, they're hitting dollar signs that I'm not usually playing in those games too often. But you get so deep into it. How am I going to stop now if I've got 5,100 slabs, right? And and it's the problems. It's just the systems at this point is too big to fail to a certain degree. The demand is still there, right? If PSA is a million cards behind, bogged down, and then on the supply side, there's nobody else postured to take their market share away from them or anything like that. So PSA is still it. There's no way we're crossing everything to SGC, even if they got that big. 5,000 cards, even at cheap prices, to swap them over, right? That's something solid, right? So,
right.
I guess I've slowly gravitated towards appreciating raw cards to a certain degree again, mostly because the sub prices are going up a little bit. So I'm thinking twice and 3 times before I sub a card. I start with a pile, and then I vet that pile, and it gets smaller, and I do about 4 or 5 times before I finally submit the cards. So I guess there's a little bit of that, but I hate to say it, not a ton.
Okay, Eric, how about you?
Well, I would say I'm doing more due diligence when looking at a card closer than I had been, say, a year ago. It's putting a little less faith in the assigned grade than I had been, but I've always been an advocate for buying the card versus the assigned grade. And like Bart said, I don't really, well, he didn't say exactly, but I don't really swim in that end of the pool with the high end stuff. So, and I'm not saying that vice versa is not subject to bad actors. It is, has been proven. But you know, I'm comfortable in my end of the pool. I'm comfortable with what I'm buying. I'd say I guess if anything, I'm more open to the other two companies than I have been in the past. Again, it's about the price point for the item that I want to buy. Yeah, I mean, I'm even probably, you know, a little more open to a raw card, but you know, there is a ceiling there as far as what I'd be comfortable. You know, especially I would be, well, because I collect. You know, unlike well, I guess Andy, you and I are most similar. The other two gentlemen are very focused on what they collect, and so I tend to collect a little bit of everything. So when a product is new, I'm more likely to be willing to buy raw because I'm of the mindset where, you know, a few years out, if that card is raw, why is that card raw? You know, that's just who I am, and that's not going to change. And I know a lot of people, oh, you know, not everybody believes in grading, but you know, at the end of the day, when the price difference between a raw card and a graded card is hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, then if you're selling, oh, you know, I found my grandpa's collection, and I'm just going to sell it raw, then you're not doing it right. Then you're not maximizing. If you know there's nothing wrong with your cards, then you're not maximizing your potential. How about you, Andy? Or we'll go to Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, let's go to Mike.
I'm not doing anything terribly different. I don't swim in that high end vintage into the pool. And again, like everybody else, I agree. I don't know. It's not contained to just that area of the hobby for sure. But I don't know. I don't buy anything from PWCC, and I haven't for about a year or so, I guess, since all of that started happening. I haven't bought anything from them. I still buy from Probstein occasionally, I do admit. So no, I haven't really changed a whole lot.
Yeah. I guess what I would say, one of the things that I've definitely done is I've started doing a lot more research, especially on, you know, if I'm going to make like a bigger purchase. Like I've actually on a couple of different occasions, you know, since all this stuff started coming out, like, you know, let's say like in the last year or so, I've reached out to some of the guys that are on Blowout that have been, you know, doing a lot of this work. And, you know, I've asked for their help on, you know, on certain cards that I've purchased. And that's something that, you know, obviously I don't think any of us, first off, we shouldn't have to do that if it's graded by PSA, BGS, SGC, whoever. We shouldn't have to do that, right? If we're going to have, you know, complete 100% faith in these companies. But I definitely feel the need to do that on bigger cards. And kind of to Eric's point earlier, you know, when I look at like, let's say there's a card that I'm looking at, let's say it's in like the, you know, $500 to $1,000 range, and I'll look at one that's graded, like let's say it's a, you know, an 8 or a 9, for instance, and I kind of like that. There is that thought in the back of my head that, you know, maybe there is something that's been done to this card. But if I was looking at the same card raw on eBay, I would be almost 100% certain that there's been something done to it, because why hasn't it been slabbed if somebody, you know, that's selling the card is looking to maximize the value on it? So that's just kind of why. And then to Bart's point earlier, like I'm OCD like that too. Like I like to have all of my cards pretty much in the same holders. Like I do have a couple of cards that I bought in BGS holders that I'd like to get changed over. And not so much because I think PSA is, you know, this much better than Beckett or whatever at grading cards. I just like them to look the same, you know. And I think that's probably something that as collectors we, you know, we're a little OCD.
I want to bring up a point. Somebody asked about the Mantle card, the Mantle rookie. That was me. And like on that card, I asked, first of all, it was a dealer that I trust implicitly. And Andy was there when I bought this card. The dealer gave me a money back guarantee, right, Andy?
Yeah.
And he said, he gave me some of the provenance of the card, provenance, of the card. I had some other outside people do research on the cert number to see if it had been through the hands we don't want it to go through, and it had not. And so, again, as best I could tell, it was a good card, and again, I wish I could always be 100% sure. We're just not gonna.
Right.
We're just not gonna. And we're getting a lot of really good questions, Andy, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to look through here.
They're
While
all reasonable questions.
while I'm looking through these questions, like let me kind of ask you this. Is there an aspect of all of this stuff that in your guys' opinion has been somewhat overblown?
Eric?
All right, I'll go first. I would say that the one aspect that is overblown in this whole thing is that, every card now is tainted. Every card is trimmed. Every card has been given favors, and they should just burn everything to the ground. There are a handful of loud people that are of this opinion, and I just, not only do I think it shouldn't happen, I don't think it will happen for various reasons. But I'm trying to think of the good analogy that, there are obviously almost daily reveals of, well, this card's no good, this card's altered, that card's altered. But when PSA will use that, for example, when they come out and they say we're a million cards behind in grading or whatever it is, it's impossible to think that 75, 80, 90% of those cards are damaged goods. It's I know people that are submitting. I don't know Bart. I'm just getting to know Bart, but he's submitted quite a few cards on his own. I feel comfortable saying that he has never trimmed a card on his own for purpose of getting a better grade. So I think that's the one aspect that is being very overblown.
I completely agree. Are there bad things happening? Of course there are. Nobody's naive to that. We all understand what's going on. But a lot of it's modern stuff. And one of the questions was, they're a million cards behind, and you could probably say 500,000 of them are Zion, Luka, Ronald Acuna, and Mike Trout or whatever. So the modern stuff is being graded in such bigger quantities than it used to, and that's good for the hobby. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It just used to, you didn't care about grading. Modern wasn't being graded in the way, or at least it used to be. Modern was graded by BGS primarily, right? Remember all that? Like it was, and then vintage was PSA, and then pre-war was SGC. They all kind of had their niche of areas that they were just known for. Now I just see a lot more where the cards that used to go to BGS to get graded are now going to PSA in significantly higher quantities, and that's creating a backlog. The modern cards aren't being trimmed. I mean, there's no point. That they're generally going to come out of the pack in pretty good condition typically. So you're pulling a card, you're putting it right in a top loader or a penny sleeve or a card saver. It's not ever getting put in a bike spoke or anything, so it's that's just, I agree.
What do you consider to be modern?
Me?
Yeah.
For the purposes of grading, I consider anything modern 1990 and to now.
All the shiny stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's been quite a bit of that stuff believe it or not, that has been trimmed, recolored stuff. There's quite a bit of that stuff going on, because I was kind of the same way, Mike. There for a long time, like with the modern stuff that I would buy, like I didn't really, I never even thought to question it. But more recently, they've especially, and a lot of it is some of the stuff that I don't think a lot of us on here are buying. Like the super high end Tom Brady rookies and stuff like that. But it's, it is happening to an extent. But like Eric said, and you said, it's not like, 75% of this stuff is, or even 20% of this stuff is bad. Let me see here what we got here.
And BGS just eliminated their turnaround time guarantee, by the way. I think effective tomorrow, they're not going to guarantee their turnaround times anymore.
So what do you guys think about Dave's comment here?
Yeah, I understand what he's saying. It's not the biggest of companies, but compared to what's out there in the hobby, I was looking around today on just, pops and stuff like that, and, who's subbing what. And, just Topps Chrome alone from 19, there's PSA's graded over 14,000 of those already, just from, just the straight base Topps Chrome. And BGS has done 450.
That's crazy.
And SGC is I don't know, they're trying to rebuild everything right now. So they haven't even loaded their pop report for modern stuff. So it's not so much that they're too big or too small type of thing, but nobody's even close to being postured to replace them. And the demand isn't going to go away there. But you still, whatever millions it is, 70 million collectibles or something like that they've certified now. You can't really walk away from that either. So there's some size and magnitude to that as well. So I think it was just if another company could step up and take that market share, then maybe, but nobody's even remotely close right now.
All right, who wants to hit this one right here?
Well, PWCC already has said that essentially.
Yeah, they did.
They basically said we consider restored to be okay. I mean, I'm completely paraphrasing here, but conserved. Sorry, and Brent from PWCC called it similar to fine art. I couldn't disagree more. There, honestly, are baseball cards beautiful like fine art? Yeah, they are to me. And they are probably to all of us, or sports cards. I'm sorry, Bart, you do some baseball, but sports cards in general. But are they too big to fail? No, they're not too big to fail. But unless Eric starts doing his own grading card company, we're all going to have to deal with what is out there. And what Bart's saying is completely true. PSA is the biggest, gorilla in the room, and they're not going down easy. They're not going down without a fight. And I don't think at the end of the day, most people care. Just plain and simple. I wish I could tell you that's not true. I wish I could tell you, the collecting world's going to come up and, marked on Santa Clara or wherever PSA's headquarters. I can't remember where in California they are, LA area, I think, but we're not in a position to do that. There's no other alternative. I mean, SGC is fine. I don't have a problem with any of the other two companies, really. I just like the consistency in my collection. And once you're in, like Bart and Eric can tell you, you're not completely stuck, but you've just invested so much money into it. It's hard to imagine switching over. I just can't even imagine.
I can answer this one really fast. Yes, there are definitely claims of BGS being dirty.
Yeah, there was one guy that was apparently getting like 13% black labels or something like that, right?
More than that.
Which was just an astronomical compared to what they released.
Let me find this.
Yes.
Okay, I want to get your thoughts on this. This is somebody that a friend of ours here that we all know, Stefan. So are you guys going to continue supporting this company, people supporting them, contributing to the problem? So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
He's not
The
wrong.
answer is yes.
What?
I mean,
You know,
you can't just completely abandon it either and say that the give no room for the company to self-correct if there's issues there, or purge the integrity problems that they have and get back to it. Devil's advocate, I still buy PWCC auctions. Do I, if somebody was showing the same card, and potentially the same price or something, would I jump over to that? Sure, but I can only find those cards in that place, right? And I'm only getting PSA labels from PSA, so that's not a great answer. But what my alternate solution is just to go sit in the corner. It's probably not going to have it either.
And Stefan makes a great point here. And man, the only thing that I can say, Stefan, is that I think we're all hypocrites in our own way in life. I mean, just to be honest, for me, for instance, I still buy PSA stuff, but I've stopped buying from PWCC. So I don't know. I mean, I think we all have I guess our own line in the sand that we draw, and, wherever that might be. I mean, I don't really know how to answer that. What about you guys, Mike, Eric?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I'm definitely more open to the other two companies now than I ever have. Well, than I haven't been in a very long time, probably over a decade, and or somewhere involved. But if the alternative is buying raw cards, then I guess I'm guilty of contributing to the problem, because, like I mentioned before, raw cards are just subject to the seller, wanting to squeeze every dime out of the card that they can. And I get it. You can say, "Oh, ask them for more pictures and do this and that." And if any of you have done that enough times, you'll usually get ignored. Most eBay sellers don't post high-res scans. 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 scans of a card, and unfortunately that's just the way it works.
And we're still going to sub cards too, right? So are we part of the problem there? I want to protect my own stuff, and so just subbing, and based on that argument, is contributing to the problem. We trust ourselves to submit the right card.
Yeah, and that's and that's one thing that there's a fair amount of the cards that I have in my collection that I have submitted myself, and a lot of people would probably question that, be like, well, why, if you pull them yourself, what condition they're in, why would you submit them? And for me, it kind of goes back to that whole uniformity thing that I like to have in my collection, because a lot of these cards that I have, I mean, I don't have any intentions of selling them. So, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff, it's good stuff to think about, because I think there's a lot of people making some good points here. Like Scott right here says this. I never thought of it this way, but he may be right. I don't know.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but I'd never even really, thought of that aspect.
Pull up Dave's question, the last one. Do you care that Joe Orlando thinks you're a schmuck? Well, I mean, in a way we are. I mean, I'm not trying to dog any of us here, but I mean, I'm a sucker written on my face. Like, seriously, if I had another alternative, I would choose it. I just don't at this point. And, to cross over everything to SGC would be, if you're talking thousands of cards, even at, I don't know what their cheapest rate is. What is it?
What good is that, though? It's
well, I mean, to be honest,
PSA, they're all the same.
To be honest, SGC has had cards called out. BGS has had cards called out. I mean, it's not these guys that are doing this stuff, you know, the trimming and the altering. I mean, these guys, they're not good people, but they're not dumb either. I mean, they know what they can get through.
And that's money is the problem. And PSA gets the most money.
They know what they can get through to this company. They know what they can get through to this one. I mean, it's a pretty sophisticated operation they've got going on, is from what I understand.
I've read Joe Orlando's articles. I think he's a schmuck too, but if the board of directors at Taco Bell thinks I'm a schmuck, I'm probably still hitting the drive-thru on a regular basis. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, we're a bunch of guys on here collecting baseball cards, so I don't think anybody probably, you know, mistakes us for the best and the brightest in the world. So maybe we are schmucks, Dave.
So let's talk about maybe the scenario. We're not lawyers. We're not going to sit here and talk about the lawsuit as if we know, you know, how this could go. But there are kind of three scenarios it could play out. All of this could be shown to be completely true. All the BOTA investigations, all the card trimming, everything. And either either the third-party graders will just say PSA is complicit in that, i.e. they knew about it and were a active, willing party in that fraud, for the lack of the word it is, that's what it is. Or is it, you know, they didn't know, or they need to tighten up their standards on grading. They need to, you know, in terms of the allowances and things like that, they need to better train their people. There's a whole lot of ways PSA could still not look great in this deal, but have some fixable things to do it. Either they're really guilty, they're only incompetent, or they had no idea. And I'm curious what you guys think about, you know, will any of those scenarios cause you to change your behavior? You know, if any of that plays out, or is it just, you know, we'll see kind of thing? I don't know. I don't know what question I'm really asking, but just how would it affect you depending on how it plays out? Bart?
I mean, it depends on how they respond, right? I mean, I wouldn't put it in Joe Orlando's hands that he was looking over some dude's shoulder and telling him to give it a different grade, or, you know, dismiss that what should be authentic and give it a 5 or something for some vintage piece. So kind of like what we're in baseball right now, like, well, all right, well, what are you going to do about it? And then I'll make my decision to counter that. So, you know, this is going to be flawed, right? I mean, we've all gotten, if you've subbed anything, you've gotten some stuff like, what are you talking about? That's an amazing card, or man, I snuck a gem out of that somehow, and I thought it should have been an 8.5 or something. So we know it's not perfect. You know, we don't want to be involved at all. You know, we're definitely paying them money thinking that that's not the case. So it would be if these, you know, hard facts got fleshed out, then yeah, my response would be based on what they said they were going to do about it and what they followed up with.
Is computer grading in the future? Eric, what do you think?
Be. Well, right. I mean,
sorry, Bart, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Do you want robots handling your cards? I mean, there's still, even if it's computer grading, it's still going to be subject to the human that's running the computer. So it should help in theory, but if there's bad actors involved, then there's still bad actors involved. It's not, you know, oh, well, the computer can measure this. Yeah, sure. But if you tell the computer something different, same problem.
Or a human can override the computer's decision, I'm sure.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, right.
There's no...
there's always a loophole, right?
Right.
You know, I did a video on this, and Bart and I were talking about this through text earlier. And people are just going to scream when I say this. I get it. But right now on PSA DNA, everything you send to PSA DNA gets stamped with invisible ink. And whether it's an index card or a baseball card or whatever, it's getting stamped with their authentication special, you know, ink that they put on it. And I thought, do that on, they're already doing the chips. They're about to do the chips in the flips, right? That sounds like something you could get at Taco Bell, Bart, chips and flips. But and start putting
Fourth meal's coming up soon.
right. But people are going, oh, you can't put ink on cards. You can't do that. Well, I don't know. It's yeah, we don't want Skynet running everything, Lou.
Good point, Lou.
But I don't know what's the solution, and that's kind of where I have a hard time with all of it. Do they just need to be trained better? That seems awfully simplistic in terms of a solution.
I mean, that would be a solution, and we're assuming that everything's on a level playing field. Now, if there's like, some kind of like insider stuff that's going on, there's no amount of training that's gonna fix that. And I think that's the big concern for, I think, most people is it's not that they're missing things. Are they purposely missing things?
Right.
To help out certain people, which, I mean, there's some pretty damning evidence that would, say that they are kind of turning their head to like certain submitters.
If you think it's not happening, I mean, come on, right?
Right.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. That was a bad joke. Sorry.
Oh.
Do you have the one written down, waiting?
No, I don't. That was really. But I'm just saying that if these huge companies, and I'm not just submitting literally 10,000 cards at a time.
Yeah.
I
mean,
either
they had to know the flaws in the system, right? And
right.
But with human error and everything like that, just some grader gets a box of 200 and they just throw whatever grades they want on there, type of thing. But I think they also know there's a happy balance there, because the more control measures and oversight you put into any business practice, the slower and the more costly it becomes. And so I think they just continue to try to figure out and navigate, how do we align that part of it so that people still pay for our service and get as close to matching our, company values as we can. And I think in the last year or so, they've really had trouble with that, and they haven't figured it out. Because I don't want to pay more, and we all don't want to wait even longer for our cards back either. But that's going to be the answer until something speeds up the process significantly, like computer grading or something else.
And I don't think hiring a bunch of new graders.
No.
Like, let's bring in a bunch of people that don't know what the heck they're talking about.
No, they have enough of those.
Right.
Yeah.
So
be a night course at community college or something to grade.
Card grading 101. Yeah, it's not easy. I'm not saying they have an easy road to try to get that. How do you have 1 to 3 years of direct grading experience?
Where are you getting it before you work?
If you've never worked for a grading company, how do you have 1 to 3 years of direct grading?
Right.
I mean, I guess technically all of us have that, right?
I guess.
Doesn't mean we were right when we were doing it, though.
No. No.
Is there I got to be 90% accurate or something? Better be something like that in there.
Okay, so Bart, I got to tell you something funny, because you weren't there, but Andy and a lot of people here were, and Eric. At the National, they had this booth where you could go, and they had this challenge to go grade cards. Like, they would bring you I didn't do it, so I don't know the exact way it was run, but apparently you got to sit in this booth, like in this, like a little, room. It's like one of those little the tents on the sideline of a football field that they go in.
Sure.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to give grades to these cards, and they would give prizes and stuff like that. But so maybe all those people were being really secretly interviewed for a job. I don't know if they.
Yeah, you had to pay them for that too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
This is interesting here. Like, I would assume that they probably already have cameras in every section of the grading process, but we don't get to see that. Is that kind of what you guys would think?
Yeah, I'm sure
You
they
would
do.
hope
You
so,
know,
yeah.
just for handling and security purposes. But
But yeah, we're never
do you
gonna
want to
do
be filmed 24/7 at your job? You know, who's signing up for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds, and I mean, they have, like you guys said, I think they probably already have the cameras there, but like, it's not like, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where we get to actually see that footage.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, it would.
I imagine they got to have some insurance, right? What insurance company is going to say, yeah, we'll back you, but we have no idea what your processes are, and we have no way of figuring out if something went wrong if there's no closed circuit television footage or anything like that to follow up on. I mean, they got to be sitting on millions upon millions in whatever warehouses or whatever they grade these things in. They you know, it can't just be a cipher lock on the door and that's it.
That's true.
Right.
To me,
Not to mention most of that stuff's not theirs. So.
Right.
yeah, I just don't know why they don't scan a card the minute it comes in.
Well, that's what we were told was going to be happening. So we'll see. I haven't heard of that implementation yet, but we were told at the show last year at the luncheon that they were going to be scanning every card that came in.
I remember that. And then it needs to be when it leaves, it's, front and back are scanned, high quality scans. Like, I shouldn't be able to upload a scan of a card that I own. It should be their scan for that cert number, front and back. When I say yes, it's my card, and I input it into the registry, that should be their photo that shows up, not mine.
Yeah, that would make. Yeah. You'd think that would make everything nice and uniform as well.
Correct.
I'm just picturing that in reality, right? Like, so where are these cards going for the X number of months? Is it just making the rounds around the building and watching in the scan and just keep, for 3 months, it's just going in this eternal loop until somebody pulls it off of the surveyor and the belt and starts grading? How can you track it for that long like that?
I
items, right?
Literally sits in a warehouse, and it's not like we think. It is not where you're basically getting in a line. Your cards get there and you get put at the back of the line, and it eventually makes its way to the front of the line. That is not how it works at all. Like, zero how that works, which fascinates me. They have told me directly that is not how. I've asked that question, and I've been told directly that is not how it works. And so that's frustrating because you have no idea as a submitter, what are you doing? Where are my cards while they're waiting 90 whatever business days? Like I did get compensated though.
I'd be curious to completely stay together sometimes too. Like I got a sub in there that's it's still on step 3. It got signed in at the beginning of November, but half of them are my cards, and then the other half from another guy. And then like 40 or 50 of them are James Bond autos or something, where I'm sending, typical modern stuff. I would assume or hope that's not the same grader that's figuring out, who the Bond girl from 1960, what her autograph looks like compared to, a modern Guerrero or something. So how they do that, I don't know, but it's got to be pretty complicated. So I don't know if it could never just be in that straight line, like you say.
The Secret Life of Cards.
I'd watch that.
Get to work on that.
Special. I'd watch that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you, buddy. Get on it, Abel.
Hey, bottom line collector just asked a good question.
Okay.
Doubtful. They probably all sign NDAs.
Oh
yeah, they got to.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I mean, I would love to talk to somebody that actually worked there, because kind of like what you guys were talking about earlier, I am pretty sure that their process is nothing like what they show in those tutorial videos.
Oh, yeah, those are old.
I mean, it's nothing like that, because yeah, that's let's see what Snoop says here.
We need another episode of not Beyond Cardboard, of
Around the hobby.
Around the Hobby from Snoop.
It's like Beyond Cardboard. That's your show, Mike.
I know. It's coming. Little plug for that next Sunday night. Scotty Tradition will be on Beyond.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
So a week from tonight. But I'll make my Ali-like return to the ring for that. The video's still in, though. I promise.
Get some cardio in first.
That's right. So getting back to the lawsuit, I guess, a little bit. Do y'all think this is the end of this? And to me, the answer is no. Like, there's
the end of what? Wait, be more specific. The end of what?
the controversy,
Well,
you
Just
know,
move on to the next one, right?
right.
Sure.
This will be dragged out for as long as possible. And then someone else will
We
start.
had shilling, and then we did this, right?
I would say that no, this will not be the end of it. And you know, if you've been around for a long time, you know that this wasn't the start of it either.
No.
This stuff has been going on for
Right.
as long as they've been around.
Hard doctoring was going on since before most of us were born.
sure.
It's that's just the way
Maybe
it is.
not Mike, but the rest of us.
Eric's older than me,
I
so
am older than you.
what's that?
But so this is not new, and even if they clean this up, then they'll do something else. It's, you know, scammers are going to scam. That's what they do. Greed, you know, paints an ugly brush. So you've got the people that do everything for the almighty dollar, and sometimes you have to feel bad for them.
I kind of agree with Ed on this as far as that goes, just because of their
Oh, all right, that's fair.
just because of the lack of organization. I mean, it's you know, like I've sent in bulk orders and I've gotten those back before I've gotten back like a 10-day order. Now, how does that happen if they're really doing them in the order that they should be doing them in?
Yeah, I think that's the spot that PSA is really in, and they've been in for a while. They're dragging their feet. They started as a mom and pop place with values and everything like that. We're going to take care of your stuff, and we're going to put the right eyeballs on it. And it's like, oh crap, you know, we're overloaded with thousands upon thousands of items. How do we somehow match those values into something that's so big? And they're messing it up completely because they haven't chose to scale up the business in that way. But we've all chose to demand increase in that way.
Is it even scalable? That's a fair question. Is it scalable to the extent that it needs to be?
Not really, because it's the grader, right? And
Right.
how do you train that many good, experienced graders and pay them enough so that they keep gaining the experience and stay in the industry?
And the crooks are hoping that doesn't happen because it allows their stuff to get through easier. And
Right.
you know, it's not just like this in cards. It's like this in every crime thing or shady stuff. Is the crooks are always trying to stay ahead of the cops, right? And so that's true in software and, you know, corporate espionage and you name it. We're talking about cardboard, so it might seem a little trite and silly, but it's not. I mean, we're all putting a lot of money into this hobby, and even if you're not putting a lot of money into it, you're putting something into it, and we want it to count for something. We want it to matter and not just be frivolously pissed away.
Right. And this is something I just kind of thought of this. And I'm not going to speak for you guys, but I think that you probably have felt this way as well. Whenever all this stuff first started up, initially, you know, I was really pissed about this stuff, right? And, you know, your first thought is, you know, screw these guys. I'm not going to buy any more of their stuff. I'm not going to collect any more of this stuff, right? But then you really start thinking about it and you're like, well, I really enjoy doing this. So if I stop doing it, who's going to hurt more, them or me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Great
you
point.
know, that's kind of like the ongoing battle that I think all of us have, ethically, morally, all this stuff, because this is something that we really enjoy. And if like for me personally, I know if I stop doing it, I'm going to be hurting me way more than I'm going to be hurting, PSA. Like they're not going to miss my, 20 card submission from this year, that's
Right.
not going to affect their bottom line. So
True.
that's kind of how I think about it.
That's a great point. I mean,
in fact, we could probably get everybody that's on this chat and, start, rattling cages and banging the drums about, boycotting PSA. It would still be just a drop in the bucket of their business. And it wouldn't really, they would say something to placate us and say something to make us feel better, but it wouldn't change really. They got to want to change themselves. I mean,
they could piss all of us old heads off, with, and we could just stop submitting all the vintage, but, every year a Zion or so is going to come out with some, crystal refractor, and they just keep it going. The demand is still there.
It's tough. I wish we had more. I wish we could just come up with answers that.
Not a chance, Gary. Gary asked a question. Good question. Not a chance. Not for modern cards.
No, not even close.
Not even close.
No, they're rebuilding their website right now. I looked them up beforehand. They haven't uploaded any pop reports from 2019 yet. They still, even we say they're monstered for vintage or whatever. I looked up like the 52 Manels and Ty Cobbs or whatever. They're not even close to pop on PSA for those cards, and that's supposed to be their niche. They're not ready for that, but they're more mom and pop, and so people are getting the service that they want from PSA from them, and so that's they're still getting that little sliver of the market, but they're not ready for that kind of demand. They can't take over.
Right. Still no set registry.
Well, we're still waiting for that big announcement.
That was last year, right?
2 years ago this time. It was 2 years ago this time. They had a big announcement coming for probably be about. They said it'll be around the time of the National, 2018.
I like what Bobby Ortega said there.
That is a good friend of mine. Yeah.
He's right, though. He's right.
Hey, I mean, I try, guys. I try.
JT just asked a really good question.
Oh, she's right. Sorry.
Yeah, she's right. You seen the picture, Eric? I mean, come on.
I see the picture now, yes. The chat room pictures are real tiny. Give me a break.
Let's see. What percentage? That's a good point too, JT.
Very good point.
He is the apprentice for nothing. We don't call him the apprentice for nothing.
Right.
I'd say over half, though, right?
Do you think?
I mean,
No way. No way. I'd say probably about 10% no.
Really? I would say higher, but I mean, I don't know what I'd gauge that on other than activity. But
I'd say at least half of us are hobbyists, and so we would hear about it. Or
Yes.
like that.
I'm just
There's
saying.
definitely some casual folks that just, hey, I got $15 burning a hole in my pocket. Let me hit eBay. But
Right.
most of us keep going.
See, I think here's what I think on the whole. There's a very large minority that are very loud, and they reside on the most popular message board that we have for sports cards.
good answer, Phil.
Too easy.
0.72 repeating, of course.
Too easy for Phil. He knew exactly. He did a poll, and that's the answer.
So, I think a lot of people fail to realize how small the community that a message board in the first place is. I don't think. All right, fine. I'm talking about blow up message boards. All right.
Sure.
A lot of the people on blow up message boards that are, the whole burn third party grading to the ground type of people, they're getting very frustrated that the FBI isn't putting out public announcements on what they're doing. And they're getting very frustrated that PSA isn't announcing what they're doing. And all of that frustration, I think they just don't, these things, unfortunately, these things take a lot of time. And it's going to take a long time. And the message board's presence itself is very small. So whereas everybody, oh, I'm on blowout, I see trim threads, I see that. Yes. But then if you go to a show like the National, hey, you on blowout? What's the, they're not, nine out of 10 people you ask will have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm just talking about the entity of a message board as a whole.
And Eric, to your point, Eric, like the people at the National that know about blowout and all this stuff, that's probably a way higher percentage than just the general public overall.
That's fair. Yes, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
I'm not on blowout at all, but I've tried it a couple times, but it's just a mess of a board. So, but I'm still aware of it. I think there's enough people on Facebook that, again, it's a very loud minority, but that loud minority has at least gotten to enough people where I would say it's 50% have heard something. But
that's fair.
When you hear such a small amount of people be barking so loud, basically, again, it's like the news of today. You don't really know how much to trust it, and that's why it hasn't changed a ton of things. But I feel comfortable with there's a fair amount of people that at least are aware of it.
I think that maybe the catalyst for change for all of the PPGs, it's going to be the feds. People start actually getting handcuffs put on them and going to jail. I think that could be a catalyst for some significant change in the way processes are done and everything. And Victor just said something interesting. Victor Roman, he said PSA should stop grading for a season, catch up. Bart, weren't we just talking about this literally the other day?
Yeah.
And PSA is Collectors Universe. They are a public company. No way, no how are they going to do that. They answer to their shareholders, and it's not in their best interest. So they will never, ever do that. I agree that would
be backed up from being off. So I mean,
yeah, and then even if you stopped for 3 months and said we're not taking any more submission, you try to catch up. What happens when the 3 months is up? They get absolutely inundated with submission. Mm-hmm. It's not like people will do anything different other than wait 90 days. Big hairy deal. They're just like, I'd wait 90 days anyway. And it would be worse than ever, I think, if they tried to catch up. They'd never it just won't happen. And their profits will suffer too much. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So how long have we been going here? A little over an hour?
Yeah, we're right about a little over an hour.
Yeah.
Nice.
Man, we didn't solve any problems in an hour. Not we expected to either, but I think this is good for, again, you've got 4 guys here that, look, we collect graded cards. I wish, it's just truth. And I like them. And I think I can speak for the other guys. We all like them. That's why we do it. And it's a shame. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not here to stick up for PSA or BGS or SEC or anyone else. I mean, but at the same time, like that's what I like to collect, and I mean that's probably what I'm going to continue to collect unless something really drastic happens. And honestly, like I expect more to come from the FBI investigation than I do from this lawsuit. Same.
But that could take. Have y'all been watching McMillions on HBO or whatever?
No.
It's been it's a documentary about how somebody inside McDonald's, not inside McDonald's, but inside the marketing company that did the Monopoly game back in the 80s and 90s and 2000 was rigging the game. And the FBI, the FBI conducted this years-long investigation. They're still, I don't know the end of it because the series, it's like they release one episode a week, and if the FBI cares about Monopoly game on McDonald's, then hopefully they'll care about the card industry, because there's a lot of money at stake overall, right? I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars, maybe. I don't know what the number is, but a lot. Yeah, exactly, Bart. Billions, 10 billion. I think there's going to be some issues. It'll come out. The FBI will get to the bottom of it. I'm relatively confident of that. So, of course, it's a scam. They proved it in the movie already that it's a scam. I always look for that one damn game piece that I can never find. And
yeah, no accident there.
no.
Yeah.
All right, guys, do you got anything you want to close with?
I would just say all these grading companies they're third-party graders. So if you're going to hold them accountable, go after the first and the second party, and one of them is you, right? So go after, do your research, find the cards that you want, look at them, check them out, and then ask lots of questions of the seller and stuff like that too, and so that all three of those parties are involved in the transaction.
Mike, you got anything to finish with?
I think all of us would like this not to be happening, but it is. I think a point you made earlier is I love this hobby too much to just stop. I don't want to be cheated. I want to know what I'm buying. I'd rather a card say altered than at least then I know what I'm buying. And I wish that would be happening more often if they find that a card is altered. Blue Jacket, nothing's changing. Okay, that's a wrap. I mean,
we solved nothing, Dave.
Damn it.
So I'm anxious to see how the FBI investigation goes.
That's kind of like I said earlier, I have more hope with that, actually, putting some of these people possibly behind bars. I think that's what a lot of us would like to see, is to get some of the bad actors, to have to pay for what they've done. What about you, Eric? Anything in closing?
Well, I mean, I agree with everyone, what you guys already said. So I want to close with something that I should start saying more. I want everyone to love their cards. Love the card you have. It's very easy as collectors to try to march forward and think about, well, all right, this just got listed on eBay. Am I going to win it? It's difficult to do. Take some time to look over your shoulder what you've already collected. A lot of us, I see a lot of people suggesting, despite everything that's going on, people are asking on Blowout, hey, should I get this card graded? And then you'll see people say, well, no, it's not going to grade well. Don't bother. So what? Love your cards. If you want to get your card graded, get it graded. Enjoy it. Worry less about the assigned grade. Hey, I have a Jordan rookie. It's a PSA 5. Should I feel bad that it's only a PSA 5? No. It's a freaking Jordan rookie. Enjoy it. That's all.
Yeah, for sure.
Great point.
All right, guys. Thank you, all three of you guys, for being on here, and thank everybody that watched and contributed in the comments. I tried to get as many comments up as possible. I'm sure there's a lot of people I didn't get to, obviously, so I apologize. We'll try to get you in there next time. So,
I'm going back to the beach. I'm on sabbatical, so I'm going.
Yeah, get out of here. Get out of here. All right, guys. Take care, and we'll see you next.
All right.